former Laker, the Lakers, and a law student at the University of Toledo. Have the judges introduce themselves, and then we'll invite the students to do the same.
Well, welcome. My name is Randy Kotz. I'm an educational specialist with the Holland Science Center for Presidential Studies here at GVSU. So welcome. Thank you for having me.
Great. Good morning. I'm Don Cooper, Director of Civic Initiatives at the Gerald Ford Foundation.
Good morning, and thank you for being here. My name is Alexandra Wilson. I'm a proud alumni of this program. I'm the Director for Personal Giving at Samaritas, and I'm also the co-founder of the Fundraisers Collective.
Hi, my name is Simon, and I'm an exchange student from Slovakia.
Good morning, my name's Mallory McConnell.
I'm Jacqueline Van Every, and I'm from Cool Brother High School. America has been king-free since 1776. This is due to the powers of the legislative branch growing.
With the checks and balances, the legislative branch can keep the executive powers becoming too powerful and tyrannical.
Because Congress is considered to be closest to the people, it can represent the people's needs.
Before the Constitution, Congress was the only branch of federal government under the Articles of Confederation. The legislative branch has actually changed as to how representative and close to the people it is. Originally, the Constitution made it so that the federal senators were appointed by the state legislatures, making them out of reach of the people.
The House of Representatives is voted directly by the people, but originally it had severe restrictions placed on people. Only white landowning men were able to vote for them. They wanted to create a representative republic, but the framers were actually creating an elitist democracy. They wanted the rich to control the government, stating that the uneducated would make the not correct choice.
Putting voting under the rules of equal representation, less than 25% were able to vote on their representatives. This changed after the Civil War. They started slowly letting more people gain access to vote for who would represent them in both chambers. This made it closer to true representation, which was solely conceded to minorities. In the future, if Congress follows this trend, they will continue to slowly give more representative rights to the people, ensuring that it truly is the branch most connected with the people.
The legislative branch is the one considered closest to the people, meaning that it holds some of the most important powers and responsibilities. The legislative branch is the one written first because the framers found it as the most important branch of government. It holds major powers such as declaring war, power of the purse, impeaching the president, approve or disapprove of the president's recommendations for legislation and Supreme Court judges, and creating the laws that ultimately protect and regulate the people.
They also have checks placed onto themselves with the president able to veto the House legislation passed, but it is ultimately able to be overturned with 2/3 vote from both chambers. They are also, the judicial branch is able to declare their legislation unconstitutional, and they have a check placed onto themselves, which is they're able to vote for a House or Senator who is to get them out of there and put a new replacement until the state replaces them with a new one. They have these checks placed on them, so events such as Henry Siliers in 2020, in which he was convicted of accepting bribery from foreign entities, will be a rare occurrence that can be dealt with swiftly.
Our final conclusion: overall, the legislative branch has a large amount of power and gives the most representation to the people.
Because of the amount of power of the legislation branch is given, it needs to have more limitations to ensure that tyranny doesn't occur. Through amendments such as the 13th, 14th, and 15th, they are able to ensure that the people are equally and fairly represented.
Also, through Article 1, Sections 7, 8, and 9, their powers are specifically defined. Examples are revenue-raising bills must originate in the House of Representatives. The process for overriding a presidential veto with a 2/3 vote in both chambers. Congress also possesses the power to lay and collect taxes, pay debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare, such as the power to declare war and impeach the president.
These powers secure that the will of the people will be represented, but also ensures that the legislative branch will not become a tool for tyranny.
That's time. Thank you.
Thank you, and just as a reminder, if you could please put away your notes. Okay, thank you. And we touched a little on this at the end. You outlined Congress is a branch that's pretty powerful, pretty independent, with some limits. So can you maybe reflect on a little bit about congressional independence? How independent is it today versus what the framers may have thought of when the Constitution was drafted?
There's definitely a huge difference between modern day independence and when it was originally, especially now, as there's always supposed to be tensions the framers wanted from the executive branch and the legislative branch, which was even in like a united government, but they do not have said tensions with the president having a lot of control now over the legislative branch.
Yeah, that's really true. For example, in these days we can see, and it's a fact that it's probably maybe the first time in history when a president has like so big influence over the political party, Mr. Trump, and we can see that he is like really influencing other Republicans that are part of Republican Party. So he also indirectly influences what Congress will propose and what will be signed.
Kind of follow up with that a little bit. You mentioned a lot about the role of Congress and its intent. Diving into the idea of Congress as an investigative body, why does Congress have that ability? Why is it important? And maybe you can address some current events, and does it utilize that investigative power? Has it squandered that? How congressional investigation?
It is important for Congress to have that power because they are the closest to the people. They're like decided by the people and they're like voted on to represent the people. With these powers, they're able to ensure that like nothing bad's gonna occur. Such events when they've used that, like they did it with Nixon, they opened that, and now they're doing it with the Epstein files.
Yeah, exactly. I agree because Congress can also review what president did, and they also have the power to impeach the president. So by reviewing what president did, they can, as Mallory said, impeach him. And yeah.
And you mentioned no kings, so we say this because the executive branch is like kind of influence over the over Congress and everything right now too. So you brought up the no kings to show that little bit of like the executive branch's influence.
I'm gonna pull it back for a second. So we talked about necessary and proper clause, right? So with tension, let's talk about the tension maybe between the principle of the enumerated and the eliminated, and the limited powers.
There is definitely a tension because like with the necessary and proper clause, like it is hard for like those powers aren't defined, and especially with like the Commerce Clause, they've used stuff like that in a stretched ability. The United States versus Lopez showed that with the Commerce Clause, it's hard to tell, and they have to be reined back, especially with that kind of stuff.
Great. I'm just following that a little bit on how do you tell the difference between what is an expressed or enumerated power of Congress and what is an implied power of Congress? Like what would you look to? What documents would you look to? How would you know what power falls in what area? And what implication does that have for Congress's use of that power?
For the powers, there are specific ones, like they have like the power of the purse, they're able to impeach and like declare war. They have those powers, especially like which powers Congress has expressly. They should, when they're making legislation, like show like what it's based off of and if those powers are like being stretched or not.
I kind of follow up with the stretching of powers. You think of the Bill of Rights, you think of typically independent liberties, but how does the Bill of Rights limit congressional power?
Well, we can see, for example, the best example is in 10th Amendment that powers that are not given to the Congress are secured to the states and individuals. So yeah, this is probably the best example I can say, where Bill of Rights is also saying that Congress doesn't have unlimited power, but also states and individuals have some power.
There's also like the First Amendment where it's like the freedom of speech, the freedom of assembly, the freedom to petition and stuff, which also are used as like, it can be a check placed onto Congress itself because they need to make sure laws, amendments such as those are not being limited and restricted.
So with all this congressional independence that we're talking about, and we've seen it change, do you have any projections on what this is gonna look like in the next 25, 50, 75 years?
Well, from my perspective, probably it's gonna be changed. Maybe the Congress, from my opinion, will become a bit more independent, because as I already mentioned in my previous speech, that it is true that Mr. Trump has like a real big influence over the Republican Party. I think that maybe something like this won't happen again, and Congress will gain like the more independent when the either the representatives from Republican or Democratic Party won't be so attached to the leader or the president, and they will become like more independent.
Do you think that,
That's time.
so just my follow-up question would have been just to noodle on is, do you think that there could be a Shays Rebellion again in the future? So, just to think about. I think you guys did a great job. I know this is a very stressful day, so congratulations and thank you for being here. I thought you really did a great job at answering our questions and coming up, and I think you worked together very well. Just a friendly reminder is, I know you were nervous. Have us read the question real quick before you jump in. But that's just a friendly reminder for next time. And again, been in your seat. I know the nerves, and you guys did fantastic. So congratulations.
Great. Good job. You did a good job talking about a lot of big concepts that are in the Constitution with the legislative branch, and that was all great. You hit on all the right themes with those. To think about for the future, there are a lot of founding documents. You touched on the Federalist a little bit, and in thinking about how those founding documents might connect to those big ideas in the Constitution is something that I'd encourage you to reflect on and maybe articulate a little more in future questions.
I'd reflect that as well. I like your use of Supreme Court cases and the relevance to the things we're talking about. I would maybe encourage you to dig deeper into those and then maybe have some of those as evidence pieces to some of your support statements. Nice job.
I'll also mention, when you're thinking about like modern day examples, I thought you did a good job kind of pitching where we might go and why they're not so independent now, because that president has an outsized sway over their party, right? That might be the case whenever the Congress belongs to the same party as the president. But you might also talk about, like congressmen all have complete immunity when they say things in the chambers. So that's one of those things that gives a lot of weight to their ability to investigate, right? And we've seen some representatives recently be charged with crimes, but that's not related to things that they said in Congress, right? So that's just something to think about too when you're considering modern day examples, and then you might pitch and say that's the right approach, or we need stronger protections for members of Congress, or perhaps we just need a Congress that's more willing to push the executive, you know. So I thought you did a wonderful job, and congratulations again. Thank you for to your coach for putting this together, and a warm regards. We wish you the best in the rest of your competitions for the day.
Good work.